Now we about to have a conversation about white supremacy, but before we do that, let's talk about them dingy ass teeth. Girl, you need some of this Lucida, honey. This charcoal activated toothpaste will have your pearly whites looking white in no time and supreme. Drop down in the description box, click the link to purchase this and other fine products. Pull up a seat, boys and girls, because we are about to have a very informative conversation about racism and why white people act the way they act, not only in the U.S., but globally. Here you go. So Nessa, girl, I had been sitting on this piece of information. I had made a note in my phone about 2 months ago. I wanted to do this video, but the time was never right or whatever. And after waking up today and seeing the map, blue versus red, how much was red versus how much was blue, I was inspired to do so, and here is why. When I woke up this morning at about 8:30, and saw the map and saw how much of it was red, I was extremely disappointed because while I know that there are people of every color who have voted for Donald Trump, it's safe to say that the overwhelming majority of his voters are white people. And it was disheartening to me because it made me feel like there is nothing that this man can't do that will make these people turn on him and go in other way. And why is that? I mean, this man said grab women in the pussies, all these hundreds of kids separated from their damn families, putting people in cages. I mean, just the ties with Russia, calling women names, so on and so forth. And it's just weird because people completely overlook that. You know, I read a quote somewhere that said people have an uncanny ability to overlook facts that don't align with their worldview. And the reality of the situation is Donald Trump and his beliefs align with a lot of people's worldview, and for that they're going to stand by him regardless. They don't give a damn if he grabbed 60 pussies last night. They're going to stick by him. And so, you know, when I'm up at night, a lot of the times I be scrolling through YouTube, and I guess because I had watched a Farrakhan clip on Phil Donahue where a lady had asked Farrakhan, and we'll talk about this on another topic, but I'm just going to tell you what inspired this video to come up in my feed. It was a Phil Donahue episode on Race in America, and a white woman was suggesting that white people are scared of black people. And Farrakhan looked the audience dead square in the face and was basically saying, I don't understand where this fear, this physical fear of danger of black people comes from within the white community. We as black people do not have a history of killing white people, but white people have a history of killing us. Pause, hard stop. When you think about it, when you think about American history, there is no Tulsa riots of white people. There has not been a one instance depicted in a movie or in real life where you've seen a mob of black people go attack white people for no reason or burn down white people's village or anything. It's never happened. So he posed a very good question as to why is it y'all are so scared of killing us when y'all are of us killing y'all when y'all are the ones who have the history of killing us. Then as Farrakhan goes a little further, he speaks to their fear is rooted in guilt, that if we ever did get into power, that we would do to them what they did to us. And then the crowd goes up in thunderous applause. Y'all should check it out. Google Louis Farrakhan, Phil Donahue. It's really great. So anyway, as a result of watching that video, another video popped up in my feed. And it was a conversation by a doctor named Frances Cress Welsing. And she has this theory, this essay. It's called The Cress Theory of Color Confrontation and Racism, White Supremacy. And let me read it to y'all really quickly, just what it is. In this book, she talks about the genocide of people of color globally, along with the issues black people in the United States face. According to Welsing, the genocide of people of color is caused by white people's inability to produce melanin. The minority status of whites has caused what she calls a preoccupation with genetic survival. So let me break this down to y'all, because in the video she goes more in-depthly. And so Dr. Frances Cress Welsing suggests that white people as a whole are the overall minority on the globe. The overall minority, that most people on the globe can produce melanin. That white people have, their genes are, the gene or the inability to produce melanin is a genetic recessive gene. It is a gene defect of sorts. And as a result of that, because she asked, white people have this white supremacist complex, not just in America, but globally. So in her paper, she asked the question, why do white people behave the way they behave? Why is white supremacy necessary? And she digs into the fact that white supremacy may be necessary for the genetic survival of white people, because without it, they would experience genetic annihilation. And she says that the biggest target to annihilating them genetically, and the person who has the largest ability to produce other specimens with the ability to produce melanin, is the black man. And that is why so many of their attacks globally are launched towards the black man and people of color. And I was like, wow, that is deep. That is some Darwinism, survival of the fittest, evolutionary shit for that ass. Now, the beautiful thing I love about the area of academia is no one is saying it's true. It's a theory, but it creates a great piece of conversation, because in all actuality, while most power structures, most structures that dominate the world globally are that of white people, so we tend to think that they're, just this dominant species of people, they are actually the genetic minority on the globe. Most people on the globe have the ability to produce melanin, and they don't. I went and did some further just reading stuff on it, and I came across something on the internet that suggests that way back when, post all these different civilizations, I guess when the first genetic defect or genetic split off, or whatever you want to call it, from the original African specimens, and white people began being produced, some people theorize that they were outcast. And, they were outcast to different regions of the world or whatever, and then after a while, they tried to return to Africa, bringing all this, energy of dominating and conquering, so on and so forth. And, I found that to be interesting, and I'm going to tell you what really made me think that there may be a certain level of truth to that way back when, is because I watched a documentary on voodoo by Jamon Hensel from Afghanistan. And in the documentary, it tells about the story of voodoo and where it began. And it suggests that the story of voodoo, and I'm paraphrasing here, was two brothers of a royal family, or kingly-like or godly-like brothers. They were twin brothers, and they were fighting. And they were fighting so bad, and it was so intense that the Queen Supreme, being a voodoo god, she came down, she struck lightning, split the earth in half where the brothers stood, and turned one white and the other black, and basically gave the white brother the part of the region that was cold and desolate, the Caucasus Mountains, if you will, and gave the black brother, Africa. And then after years and years and years, the white brother returned to Africa, and with that return brought all of these other white people, and all this other chaos and mess ensued. And that's essentially the battle of good and evil, so on and so forth. Now granted, at its core, it's folklore, but it also is consistent with the other thing that I read that said at some point, perhaps the original African inhabitants, after this genetic mutation happened, did outcast this particular group of people. And again, it's just all conversation. I'm not saying that it's true or false, but going back to Dr. Cress's theory, I really don't know what to believe, but it kind of does feel like right. If anybody has any grandparents or older people that grew up in the South, I grew up hearing things from older black people around me. They would say things like, white people are just inherently racist. It's in their DNA. And me being part of the Saved by the Bell Nickelodeon generation, I used to get so mad when they would say that, because I just wanted to see the good in everybody. And I did not believe that. And I don't think I believe that. But Dr. Cress's theory really does have my mind racing, because white supremacy has to serve some greater purpose and utility than just social capital. Again, she suggests that it is necessary for their genetic survival, and so they would not be annihilated by people who have the ability to produce melanin. So it's so funny, because she says that racism will never go away until we begin having a conversation about genetic survival and genetic annihilation amongst white people. Food for thought. What do y'all think about that? Like I said, it feels right. And she posed the question so plainly put. Why do white people behave the way they behave? And they don't just act like this in America. They act like this globally. So it kind of feels like there could be, at first it feels like a reach. But let's have a conversation. Let's discuss that, could there be some truth in the fact that white people have adopted white supremacy from a survival standpoint, and it's an evolutionary mechanism necessary for them to protect their minority status, because they are the small minority genetically of people. Only a small percentage of people on the globe cannot produce melanin, and that's white people. Let's talk about it, y'all. Very interesting. I just wanted to share. Let me know your thoughts.